In this part of the series, we're going to be discussing creating custom scans and then how you can scan across multiple timeframes and custom watch lists with the scanner. So the first thing is, how can we scan? Well, we can use a lot of different things. You've already seen some simpler ways. I'm going to show you how to use the 3 C's, as I call them: pattern, setup, and category. They're all going to be able to do similar things. That being said, you want to add those by going to columns, clicking it, and then adding the 3 C's if you don't have them, and pattern, setup, and category. From here, you will notice signal mode will change the category for setup to signal. So that will change. And then the categories within here for setup mode and signal mode also change, although be it very slightly. This is because in setup mode, we're looking at the current bar and asking ourselves, what's the next 2? Do we have a hammer, shooter? Do we have an inside bar setup? What's the setup for us? Or is it just continuation? In signal mode, it's asking what signal is happening right now. So in signal mode, if we go in category and filter by inside bar, you'll see it gives us signals: inside bars up, inside bars down. So if we go like pattern 1, 2 down, these are all going to be 1, 2s to the downside, and vice versa on the upside. Now, if we clear that, if we change from signal mode inside category to setup mode inside category, it's going to give us inside bar setups in that same category. So you'll see these are double inside. So 1, 1 green, 2 down, 1 green, 2 up, 1 green, 3, 1 green, etc. Therefore, you can use category to filter just very basic things. And the quick filters are mostly category filters. We can also filter setup or pattern to get more specific. So if we want double inside, we can go setup 1, 1, and here's all double insides. We can also do the same thing on pattern. So we do pattern 1, 1. You'll see we have 3, 1, 1 and 1, 1 double insides. Now the 3 C's. CC you'll see is the current candle. C1 is the bar previous. And then C2 is the bar previous. So for a 3, 1, 1, C2 is 3, C1 is 1, CC is 1. So if we wanted to filter for double inside, I could just do this: 1, 1. Here's all the double insides. And this makes it really simple, and I like scanning this way. Now, let's say we go to a weekly time frame. You'll see there's a lot, 44. We can also filter by category as well as, the patterns and the setups. Because you'll notice in setup, we have shooter, green, red, and then there's no hammers in here. But because of that, if we go to category, there's inside and shooter. So we know they're double inside, but why is there shooter and inside? Why are they separate? Because a setup can be within one or more categories. So if the setup is double inside or inside category, it can also be an inside shooter. So if we just remove inside, you will see this switches from inside plus to shooter plus. It does that because it's part of both categories. So this visually is going to give you the best information you can get. Therefore, if we click on these, you'll see AMD this week is a double inside week, 1, 1 shooter. And if we do some analysis, you'll see it's at the top of this broadening formation. New highs, double inside for maybe a reversal to new lows. If we go to SMCI, another chip stock, you'll see it's a double inside week shooter at the top of its broadening formation as well. If we go to KLAC, double inside shooter at the top of its broadening formation as well. So all of these setups are setting up the same thing. If we like this, what we can do is we can save it. So right now we can go to my filters and then save. You can see I already saved this once, but we'll do double inside plus shooter and save it. So if we do that, you'll see sometimes it will change how this looks, but if we go to setup mode, it's going to switch it back. And in this case, we do have a little bug where, sometimes things change. You can just make sure to refresh the page or switch between the time frames to double check that it is accurate. We'll have that fixed shortly. That being said, on the weekly, it's going to pull up that same information. Since shooter is really specific, we'll just go double inside. If we go to the month, it'll give us those double inside setups on the month, the day, etc. There is a known bug where if we save a filter, so like let's say I clear this out. When I load the filter in, I'm going to add the time frame column. So you see time frame. If I load the filter in, you will see a double inside switches to the weekly time frame, but it does not change this from day to week. So make sure, we're going to have this fixed shortly, but make sure if you do have a problem with the data that if you switch back from one time frame to another, it'll make sure that it's the correct time frame. Again, this should be fixed soon. But that being said, that's how we can create custom scans. I'll show you one more example. So let's say you like trading 3-2-2s. You can look for a 3-2 down, and then you can pair that with the category of hammer or 2 down and green. So here's all your 3-2 down hammers and 2 down and green setups. And then we could filter it further by sector. Let's just say energy. Here's all the energy names. And then we'll filter it by volume to get the highest volume names. So here's XOM. It's a 3-2 down and green. You'll see there's a plus there. I imagine the plus here is that it is going to be under the 3-2-2 category. But if we go here, you can see 3 2 down and green setup. And for now, this color on the red 2 down is not correct. We're going to fix that shortly. But hopefully that makes sense. So we can save that and do the same as anything else. If we reset, the other thing we can do is we can scan within a watch list. So, some people, they like trading, let's say like the IBD 50 list, or some people just the Dow Jones stock list. What you can do is you could say, you can use ChatGPT or whatever to get however you're getting your watch list. Let's just say, give me the recent IBD 50 stock list. And we'll see if it has, I don't know if this actually has access to recent data, but let's see. So from that, I just, got 50 stocks. I'm not sure if it's up to date, but to show an example, we can throw it in there and then everything will be filtered by that list. So we're only going to look at those stocks for actionable setups. So for example, let's say we're looking for broadening formations. We could look for scenario 3s on the day. Those are going to be broadening formations on the 60-minute time frame. Then we can go play them. Or we could look for inside bar setups. Here's the inside bars on the IBD 50 list. So if we go to like CLS, you'll see inside day setup, something we could look at for Friday's trading for Lotto Friday. And this is one way to do it. We can also, instead of using someone else's list, we can get our own. We can say, I want to trade stuff that's up a lot this year. We have a lot of evidence of buying. So I can add the change percent column. And for my sake, I'm going to save this so I don't have to do it again. But we can add the percent change and say greater than 30% change. Then from there, you got 78 names. We can export the CSV. And then you can feed this into, ChatGPT or whatever and say, hey, give me this as a comma separated list of the symbols. Or I made this little tool with Python and ChatGPT, which does it for me. So here it is. And there's gonna be a lot of overlap with the IBD 50 here. But what we can then do is say any setups just on the yearly that's over 30% gain this year, I want to know about. And that will be what we trade. So we go to, inside days, here they are. If we want to look for, let's say, hammers on this list, we can go hammer. And let's just say we want 2 down hammers. Here they are. So this makes it really quick to really narrow down what you're doing. We highly suggest new traders to stick to just the Dow Jones 30 or just the QQQs or just, the big 7 names like Tesla, Apple, Microsoft, Google, NVIDIA, Meta, Adobe. Just focus on a certain set. And that doesn't mean a specific ticker. What it means is we want, either a specific group of tickers like an index, a specific sector of tickers, or the same setup. So one really common thing we'll do is say, just trade the 2 down in green setup or the 2 up in red setup because it's a 2-2 reversal. So in order to do that, we can create a quick filter for it and say, I want to trade just current candle 2 down. I'm just looking for green. And I'm looking for full time frame continuity to the upside on that. So here's all the 2 down and greens with full time frame continuity. So if they reverse tomorrow, they have every participant buying as far as we know. And then I can save that. And now every day, all I'm going to do is go to setup mode, or, it doesn't matter since we use this correctly. But if we go just 2 down in green, here's all the setups I want. And we can further filter it by sector. We can filter it, by last being greater than 50 with a higher, percent move on average. And now these are the only tickers we're ever going to look at. So we can do so much stuff with the scanner. This is a little bit of what we can do. And then the last thing I want to discuss is interpreting the charts, which is going to be really quick. So when it comes to the scanner, what it's allowing us to do is find actionable signals. And those actionable signals are not in a vacuum. We want to make sure that what we're doing is using actionable signals with everything else we know to be true about price. So there's really a few main things we're looking for. We're always going to ask ourselves, what's the next scenario 2? What will that negate, create, or do? And what that means is this. If we have, let's say, a broadening formation, and then we have a shooter or a 2 up in red on the daily, we want to ask, if this signal works, what will it create? Is it going to set up another signal? So if this daily works, does it create a weekly rev strat or a weekly 2-2 reversal for next week? What does it negate? Will it change the color of any of the other time frames? So if this daily reverses and it goes like this, was the weekly open here? Does it change and negate the week from green to red? And then what does it do? Well, in this case, it's coming off the top of a broadening formation. That's what it's doing. So those are the main things we're asking. We can also ask, how much evidence do I have for it? So if this daily breaks, do I have full time frame continuity or not? And then from there, it's just, where is it going? When we have the broadening formation and the signal, we know if this signal does not reverse, it will take the other side of the range. So when we're looking for setups, we want to do a few things. We want to look for simultaneous breaks, where if we have a shooter day, we want the whole sector to look like that. And when it breaks, we want full time frame continuity. It's not a necessity, but we prefer it. And then if it works, where is it going to go? So for example, recently we saw this. So you'll see utilities XLU had a hammer on the day. So this would have shown up on our 2 down hammer scan for a 2-2 reversal. Therefore, we want to look at the utilities holdings. What are those? Well, we could go in here and we could just click utilities. So we click utilities and we'll just do all utilities. So if I click here, so it'll show me all the utilities. Then what I can do is I can filter by volume, by average true range, whatever I want. But I can go into there and say, okay, well, if utilities is a hammer, what other ones were a hammer? In this case, I don't have the results here, but just from memory, SO was a hammer. So that's setting up the same thing. When we see those signals, it's not in a vacuum. We have to ask ourselves, what does it create, negate, or do? In this case, this hammer is at the bottom of the broadening formation. That's a good thing. What does it negate? Well, in this case, it's not changing the week or the month. But what does it do? Well, in this case, that hammer worked and sets up the weekly signal. So we're always asking that question. What is the next scenario 2? What will it negate, create, or do? And in this case, this hammer day sets that weekly signal up. We also had duck. Hammer day, where is that occurring? It's occurring at the bottom of the broadening formation, like so. And the same thing, it tries to set up the weekly signal. If we go to AEP, you'll see the hammer day. Where is that occurring? At the very bottom of the broadening formation, it went a few pennies lower. And what's that doing? It's trying to set up the weekly hammer. If we go to WEC, you'll see hammer day. What is that going to do? It's going to try and set up the week. And you'll see how all of these are occurring, bottom of the broadening formation and the signal. And they're all going to show up on the hammer scan. So we can find the simultaneous break by looking for hammers, shooters, 2 up red, 2 down in green, inside bars. And then asking how many of, a sector is doing it. So for example, if we go to inside bars, we just kind of scroll through here. There's a lot of tech, there's a lot of healthcares. So if we wanted to, we could say, I want scenario 1s and I want technology. So I click on technologies like so, boom. Look at all these technologies inside bar. Now, is it like Apple and Meta and everything? No, not really. So not a lot of the big names, but you still have a lot of tech. What if we go to healthcare? Ooh, right? We go to scenario 1 on healthcare. You'll see 19 names, and you got Pfizer, you got MRK, CVS in there, LLY. So some of the big healthcare names. This is a potential simultaneous break. And then we go through all the charts and look, where are they at in their broadening formations? What are they trying to create, negate, or do? So if we go to Pfizer, you can see inside day, where is it at in the broadening formation? Well, it's stuck, right? So you have some slight lower lows down in here, but all of this is stuck to the left. So we go to the month. It's an inside month. It's not really doing much. What we could say is it sets up a monthly signal if that breaks up. So you could take the daily to set the month up, right? And if we keep going, you go to MRK. We'll just use the site to make it quicker. You'll see inside day MRK. The month is a 2 down, so nowhere near doing much there. The week is a 2 down. So if it breaks up, we'd have a small daily broadening formation, but not much evidence for it to work because the week and month are red. TEM. You'll see inside day, bottom of the daily broadening formation. The week is a 3, so it's a broadening formation. And then the month is a doji. So not much evidence this month, but inside day at the bottom of the broadening formation. So if it reverses, we'd have it coming back through, potentially with a simultaneous break, right? And we can go through all of these. And this is what we want to do. The utilities example is like a really good example of what we're looking for. Now, if we go to like 2 down in green, we can go to utilities and you'll see this. 22 down in greens, right? So if we go through these, you'll see EXC, slight 2 down in green. This point on the month, it's pretty red. Still an inside week. We go to Dominion. You'll see slight 2 down in green, right? Still an inside week. Doji on the month, so not much going on. If we go to SO, a slight 2 down, bottom of the broadening formation in green. Still decently red or slightly red on the month. It's a 2 down week. So you'll notice all of these are going to look very similar. It's like slightly lower lows and then the 2 down in green setup. So tomorrow in utilities, potentially you'll see all these 2-2 reversals to the upside. And what could they do? Duck, for example, could cause an outside week. If that 2-2 breaks, could go an outside week to 117.86. And if we have all of them breaking, then we'd have, you could see like 70% of utilities reversing up tomorrow at the same time. That's what we want to look for. So hopefully that makes sense. The last thing I want to show you is how you can get, some pictures of what you're looking at with AI. You can do this with whatever AI you want. But if we export the CSV, for example, if we go to the week, let's just say, we'll just export all of them. Why not? Looks like we already did. Then we can go to like something like Google Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever it is, and take a look here. So what we can do is we can take this data and we can get visualizations of it. In the near future, we're planning on creating these in the website in real time. But for now, this allows you to see like a more broad picture of what's happening as far as you could say like CC, how many 2s up, 2s down, 3s and 1s for each symbol, and then divide it by sector or separate it by sector. And we'll see what it pops out. I don't do this often, but there's so many ways to use the data. You should just have fun with it. So you can see, for example, current candle a 1, a 3, 2 up and 2 down. You can see by sector, right? We have more 2s up in technology, right? And then when we look at financials, we have a lot of scenario 1s financials, a lot of scenario 1s tech, and a lot of scenario 1s in the discretionary consumer cyclicals. So this is another way that you can view the data. And there's so many cool ways to use this. This is kind of scratching the surface because you could probably start tracking, success rates and everything if you export the data and use Excel. But I'm just trying to show you everything you can do with this. Now, that being said, that covers most of what I wanted to talk about here today. In the next example, we're going to talk about strategy examples and then use cases for the scanner.